Hey everyone, Spicy Toast Gaming here. Hope you're having a great day. Hope this video can make it a little bit better for you. Today we're going to be doing a updated guide for Lux. I think this might actually be like our third time we've done a Lux guide. Anyways, let's get right into it. Starting off with Lux herself. She's a 5-cost Demacia, 3/5 stat line with barrier, so definitely a little bit more tanky, not quite as aggressive of a stat line, but that's fine. You just want her to stay on the board and alive. Her level up is I've seen you play 6 or more mana of spells. When I level up, create a final spark. Now this is total mana, not all in one go, so she's not like Jace where you have to play a spell that's over or 6 cost or over. You can play a bunch of smaller spells and that mana will all count for Lux, but she has to be on the board because it says I've seen. So she has to be on the board for those effects to activate. Once she levels, she now goes to a 4/6, and now each time you play 6 more mana of spells, create a final spark in hand. So she makes 1 when she levels, and then afterwards, she is going to keep making those as you keep spending more mana. And again, these spells don't have to be one big spell, it can be several smaller spells that just add up to 6 or more mana. Those final sparks, as you see right here, it is slow speed baseline, but that can get adjusted later. And this does have overwhelm, and it's also fleeting. So you have to play this the same round she summons it, otherwise it's going to get discarded. But you see 0 cost, deal 4 damage to an enemy. If there's no enemies, deal 4 to the enemy nexus. And since this has overwhelm, any extra damage is still going to damage the nexus. So if you target this on like a 1 health unit, it's going to deal the 1 health damage to them, and then the extra 3 damage is still going to go and hit the nexus. So overall, pretty good, gives you some removal. And their champion spell is the Prismatic Barrier, so 3 cost burst. Give an ally barrier this round, and then since it's her champion spell, it's also shuffling a Lux into your deck. Overall, pretty solid card, good defensively, has a higher stat line for health, has that barrier, and then is able to just generate these lasers for you. Let's go take a look at her constellation now. So up first, each round, the first time you spend mana on a spell, refill spell mana equal to its cost. Now that spell mana part is important because the spell mana is just those 3 extra knobs on the side of your main mana. And so essentially you can only get 3 of that mana back, and spell mana you can't use obviously on units or anything like that. You can only use it on spells or some equipment. So this is still nice. You're able to play a spell, get some mana back so you can try to play another spell. But it does get a lot better with the 3-star. Each round, the first time you spend mana to play a spell, refill mana equal to its cost. So this is just now refilling your normal mana bar, so you can play a big spell and then drop some units after it. Normally with this, the first thing you want to play is a spell every round, normally your most expensive spell, since you're going to get all that mana back, at least once you have her at 3 stars. So this is a great way to help your Lux level up, spend a lot of mana, get more of those lasers going. Your 2-star, +1 starting mana, when you play 6 or more mana of spells, so the same condition as Lux's level up, but this just happens always, even when Lux isn't on the board, create a 0-cost Golden Aegis in hand. So you can see that right here. Give an ally barrier this round and rally. Now these aren't fleeting or anything like that, so you can stack up multiple of these in a round. So normally the way you want to play Lux is you get a lot of units on the board, you're trying to spend a lot of mana also on these spells, so any spells that also summon units for you are excellent. And then you get to a point where you have like 4 to 5 units, and then you just start playing a bunch of these Golden Aegis, constantly rallying and just clearing the enemy board, and often just ending the game. So very solid first 3 star powers. Now they did tweak the star powers with the most recent patch for her. So now it's the first time you actually spend mana on a spell. Before it's just when you would play a spell. So you could play a 0-cost spell, and then it would try to refill your mana, but that wouldn't actually do anything since you didn't actually spend any mana. So now you actually have to spend mana for this to activate, which is just a nice little quality of life. Now for her 4-star, it's Spellburn. When you play a spell, deal 1 to the enemy nexus. This isn't too bad. You're trying to play a decent amount of spells, so this will actually count up a decent amount. But then the big thing that this can do is it can open up some interesting builds for your Lux to try to get her on the board earlier. So we'll go into more of that later, but overall, pretty nice 4-star for you. 5-star, just that extra mana. And then the 6-star will drop off my camera here for a moment. When allies attack, create a final spark in hand. Now this isn't like the first time allies attack or anything like that, just every single time they attack, they're making one of these final sparks. So now you have more ways to generate these than just Lux. And then you have your damaging spells and skills deal 1 extra damage for each 6 mana you've spent on spells this game. So the big thing here is you're making more of these final sparks, and then as you're spending this mana, which you're already trying to do for Lux and to make these Golden Aegis, you're also generating more and more of these final sparks to do more damage. It technically is going to help your other spells and skills as well, but the main spell that you're going to be using for damage is obviously these final sparks. So this is really nice. It further incentivizes everything you're already trying to do. in both parts of spending mana, but then also attacking, because you're spending mana, you're making the Golden Aegis. This is giving you a rally so you can attack again. When you're attacking, you're then also generating a Final Spark. So overall, everything just works together beautifully. Let's take a look at the bonus star. So 10 Nexus health and regen, pretty nice. A lot of extra health. Being able to heal up is great. Your support champs have Focusing Crystal, so this should give them a decent amount of scaling. Your Final Spark has Stopwatch. This goes to burst speed. This will make it so that the slow but steady isn't quite as good for you anymore, but it's definitely worth it. Now that you can use these as bursts, you can use them reactively to just immediately kill enemy units without them being able to do anything to stop you. And being able to attack, generate a Final Spark, and then essentially immediately use it to respond to whatever the enemy doing is very, very nice. Spells you acquire in adventures that cost 3 or more have Mighty Mustache. This is great. You already want spells that give you units, and so this is just giving you one more unit on your spells, which is very good. And then down here, Remembrance as Hero's Horn, so it lets you draw a champion. Great if you're trying to make sure you get your Lux. And then we just have the gemstone upgrades. So let's go ahead and take a look at the constellation. So you start off right here. This is your 3rd star power. Branching off to the side, you have your 4-star. Behind it is your support champs have Focusing Crystal. Always a little rough when an upgrade is locked behind one of these star powers, but at least this one is just the 4-star, so it's going to be the easiest of them to get. Then we head up here. This is one of the bonus nodes. Then you can go up and get your 5th star, or you can avoid that and just get another bonus node. And then just keep going on, more bonus nodes, another bonus node, and then here we have your 6-star surrounded by all your gemstone upgrades. So really nice the fact that you can kind of branch out and get your star powers when you want. Like, sure, this 6-star is locked behind a lot of these bonus nodes, but that's normally fine. If you're gonna be getting your 6-star, normally you're getting the bonus nodes like anyways. So overall, I think it's a great laid out constellation. I think the design of it, both artistically and then also functionally, is actually top notch. I also love it when the gemstone upgrades aren't locked behind each other in like a line. The fact you can just go and get them is quite nice, although they are locked behind the 6-star, so there is that. Overall, though, I think they did a very good job with her constellation. Let's go take a look at her starting deck. So taking a look at her starting deck here, up first we have the Mage Seeker Conservator. So 1/1 with that studded leather, Philosopher's Stone, when I'm summoned, draw 1, so that's nice. And then last breath, create a random 6-cost spell from a region other than Demacia. So this is just giving you some random spell generation, which is pretty solid for you. Then we have the Bright Seal Protector. So 2-cost, 2/1. This has barrier, and then play give an ally barrier this round. So a great defensive card. You can use this either to set up a big attack and make sure your units are going to survive, or just play this on the defensive to protect 2 of your units. This is very nice. Then we have the Mage Seeker Persuader. So 2-cost, 4/5 with these items, and then grant me 1/1 and Challenger once you played a 6-cost spell this game. So pretty nice that it's already a pretty good stat line for a 2-cost, but then it gets even bigger and has that Challenger once you play that spell. So overall, pretty good. You really like having Challenger units, because when you start doing those rallies with your Golden Aegis and you're giving a unit barrier, you can give one of your Challenger units barrier, and then when you rally, you can have them challenge a unit, and a lot of your other units can then safely attack. So Challenger is great for you. We have the Prodigy, 3-cost, 3/5, and has that Challenger. Again, Challenger is nice. This card is normally the first one I cut, though, just because for one, it's a little bit more expensive, and then it's not really doing anything for you except the Challenger, whereas most of your other units kind of have either better stat lines or are doing a little bit more for you. So while this is a decent card, still normally the first one that I cut. Next, we have Succession. This card is incredible for you. So 3-cost slow, summon a Dauntless Vanguard, and it has Sapphire Crystal. So this is a nice spell, relatively cheap, so you can play this in your first couple rounds. It's summoning a unit for you, which is what you love. And then Sapphire Crystal, this is great to just increase your ramp, and often you're going to be playing with Chemtech Duplicator. So playing this just lets you get that Chemtech Duplicator activated 1 round earlier, which is pretty massive. Overall, this card is incredible. Normally what you want in your opening hand, because you want to play this as soon as possible. Then we have the Sergeant, another great card. 3-cost, 4/6, when I'm summoned, create a 4 Demacian hand. So very solid stat line, but then he's generating a 6-cost spell for you. And with Lux, one issue you can really run into is just running out of spells to play, because you generally want to be trying to play a spell every single round to trigger your 3-star. So having more units that can generate spells is great. And again, this is just 6-cost spells, so it's giving you a rally. This is buffing up your entire board. And then if you have Lux on the board, this is going to level her. So great card right here. Then we have the Mage Seeker Insider. So this has Challenger from the Skirmishing Saber, but grant me 2/2 once you play the 6-cost spell this game. So gets a pretty good stat line once you play that spell, and having Challenger is pretty nice. Then we have Lux, and then finally Remembrance. So 6 costs, I cost 1 less for each ally that died this round. Summon a random Demacia follower from Demacia. So overall pretty good. You have a expensive spell to play, can generate or trigger most of your effects, and is able to give you a unit. Remember, this is able to get a Hero's Horn on it from your Constellation. Overall, decent starting deck. While you have some draw and some card generation, one thing to look out for is just either more draw or specifically spell draw. So there's some units that have, like, when you play me or summon me, you draw a spell. That can be really nice because, again, you can run out of spells to play with Lux, which can always be a bit of an issue. Overall, though, pretty solid, and while you have a couple units that do want you to play a single 6 or more cost spell, a lot of your other effects, like your star powers and Lux's level up, just takes a bunch of spells, even if they are smaller than 6, which can be pretty nice. It's a lot better than Jace, where if you get any cost reduction on your spell that drops it below a 6 cost, it's now pretty much worthless for you. I do like that Lux has that bit of extra flexibility there. Taking a look at relics now, Lux has a lot of different relics that she can utilize. We'll go ahead and start off with some of the common ones. So if you're trying to level up Lux as soon as possible, you just want to drop a Cosmic Blessing if you have them. I obviously have a ridiculous amount here, so I always use these. But if you have a more limited amount, then you'll want to hold off. Banshee's Veil, great for just trying to protect your Lux. You want to keep her on the board so that she can level, see you playing all those spells, and be generating those final sparks for you. Lost Chapter can be nice to drop her and immediately try to play a spell. And one of the best commons for anyone starting out is the Starchild Staff. Start adventures with 5 extra regen. This can be really good because when you first started out, you only have like 20 Nexus health, you don't have any revives, and you normally don't have a lot of regen either. So normally just being able to heal up 5 after every single fight can really help you stay in adventures and end up coming out on top on some that you might end up losing just because you're slowly taking too much chip damage. So this is a great one for anyone that you're trying to level, or just anytime you have a common relic slot open. And then last up, the Z-Drive prototype, start adventures with 2 more rerolls. Can be really good. Lux has some powers that are just incredible with her, and so trying to make sure you can reroll and get some of those can be very, very good. Taking a look at rare relics now, so some of the best right up here immediately. Arcane Comet, round start, create a fleeting comet in hand. So it's giving you a 6-cost spell. You're able to play this to obliterate an enemy unit or landmark, so it gives you great removal. When you're playing this, you're obviously triggering Lux's level up, making a final spark for her. And then you're also generating a Golden Aegis from your 2nd star power. And then if you ever at 6 stars, it's also giving you that extra damage as well. So overall, being able to generate a spell every round, the fact that it's a 6 cost works out quite well for you. If you want to go the removal focused route, this is great. Archangel Staff, refilling your spell mana just to make sure you have the extra mana to play your spells every single round. Very, very good. Both of these are round start effects. You need Lux to be on the board for these to activate. And then we have Chemtech Duplicator. When you play a spell, if you have 6 more mana gems, copy it with the same targets. This is very good for Lux. For one, she has the ability to get extra mana gems with that 3-cost spell. So you can get this up and running faster than many other decks. And then just doubling your spells is incredible, because then you play a 6-cost spell, you generate 2 final sparks with your Lux, you get 2 Golden Aegis, and then when you play like those final sparks, they're now going off twice as well. So Chemtech Duplicator, very, very good. Going for some kind of supportive effects, such as like Blade Rack, making sure all your units have Challenger. This can be nice. You do have some Challenger units in your deck, but making sure you have your units that actually are able to get Barrier, challenge the enemy, and so keep your other units alive, that can be pretty good. So Blade Rack is something to consider if you maybe don't have some of these other options. Grand General's Counterplan, this is another one that is very good if you don't want to go the Arcane Comet route for that extra removal, but you still want to have a spell you're generating every round. This can be decent. You're going to be generating your Prismatic Barrier, so if you want to go the more defensive route, protect your units, but still be playing a spell every round, another solid option for you. And then Scourge's Stash. This one is very good, especially with the new 4-star. So the 4-star is when you play a spell, deal 1 damage to the enemy nexus. So Plunder, I cost 2 less. This is so easy to trigger now from your 3-star, from your 4-star. So you can play a spell. When you do that, you're damaging the enemy nexus. But from your 3-star, you're then refilling your mana. So you then can drop Lux for just a 3 cost. If you already have her at the 3 mana, which there's a couple different ways you can do that round 1, either have it at 5 stars, getting the Starforged Gauntlets activated on her, which you can do, or if you're able to play your Succession that has the Mana Gem on it, any of those can try to work to get her to 3-star turn 1, so you can immediately drop your Lux. Getting her on the board is so good because you need her to be able to see you playing spells. So getting on the board early is excellent for that, but then she can also start triggering these round end effects or round start effects, and also the Chemtech Duplicator. So going for one of these relics that have the Plunder at cost 2 less is very good, especially once you get it to 4 stars. That's it for rare relics though. Let's go ahead and look at some epic relics. So Black Shield can be nice if you just want to protect your units. Hidden Tome can be okay if you want to be trying to get some of that spell mana back when you're playing your champions. Neither of these two are really incredible on her though, but they can work. Loaded Dice, not bad, getting those extra rerolls. Again, try to make sure you get the right powers. The big one though is right here, the Packed Powder. Plunder at cost 2 less, and then I have 1/1 for each different round you damage the enemy nexus. You should be damaging the enemy nexus every single round, because every round you play a spell, you damage them. So as long as you're playing a spell every round, which you should be trying to, you're damaging the nexus. This is giving you great scaling for your Lux, but again, this lets you get her on the board turn 1. So Packed Powder, if you have it, very, very good. Highly recommend using it. Then we have Lux's Relic. This one is very interesting. So power, when you level an allied champion, summon Lux. If you already have Lux, summon Garen. If you have both and not Galio, you summon Galio. So this can do a lot for you. For one, it can make it so if you're playing like with a support champion, you for some reason don't draw Lux, you can try to level up the support champion, and then when they level, you'll be able to get Lux on the board. So it's another way to try to get her. But normally you're going to be having Lux on the board and leveled, and then you're able to get Garen, and then you can level Garen to get Galio. This does quite a lot for you. For one, by leveling Lux, you're normally going to have 1 to 2 of your Golden Aegis on hand. That gives you the barrier and rally. When you summon Garen, then, you can put the barrier and rally with him, so he can attack twice and be able to get his level up. By him leveling, you then get your Galio on the board, and then just having Lux, Garen, and Galio, you're able to have enough health that Galio levels, and when Garen's leveled, he's giving you a rally every round start. So that's just putting more pressure on the enemy. You're able to get these attacks in. If you're ever at 6 stars, every attack is giving you another Final Spark, another Laser Beam. And then Galio, when he's leveled, which should happen at the end of the round that he gets summoned, the first time one of your units takes damage, he also gives you a rally. So you're getting 2 extra big units on the board, and both of them are getting more rallies for you. So this is a very interesting and fun one to use. Now, I don't really think it's necessarily like her best relic. I think going for builds not using this is totally fine, and normally is going to be similar in power, if not a bit better, but this is just a lot of fun. So one that if you really like playing with Lux, it's not bad to pick up, but it's definitely not like her best option that you have to be getting this if you want to be competitive with Lux or anything like that. And then to finish up with a couple other epic relics, we have Beast Within. Allies have Overwhelm if they're subtype 1/1. You don't have a lot of subtypes. And normally with the Overwhelm, while it's fine, you can normally rally enough that you can have enough damage. You don't really need the Overwhelm. So not one I normally run, but it can be okay. And then a big one for you can be the Starforged Gauntlets. You can throw on the Luminous Orb so that she gets the extra 3 health, so you can trigger your Starforged. So some options for builds. As far as like a rare relic build, you could go for something like this, where you try to get her on the board early. You get your Arcane Comet, you can try to start playing every round start, and then you have your Chemtech Duplicator to, once you get to that 6 mana, be doubling all your spells. If you wanted though, you could swap out either the Chemtech or the Scourge's Stash with like a Archangel Staff. So if you don't have her at 4 stars, you can't get that plunder damage off reliably, you could go and put this right here. This would be a solid rare relic build for you. Also, one relic we did briefly forget to mention is also the Incandescent Baton. This is the other Lux relic, but it's if I'm Lux +1 starting mana. This works for both versions of Lux. And then game start, summon a follower that costs 2 or less, granted Targon's Brace. Nice, just getting that little extra follower just so you make sure you have something to play round 1. But this also does work for your Lux. So normally my go-to build would be something like this, where you get the Packed Powder so you can play her turn 1, Incandescent Baton so you get some extra +1 mana, and then Chemtech with the extra mana you're getting from like 5 star from this. You can get this Chemtech activated very early, sometimes turn 2. And so this is generally my go-to build for her. But if you wanted to swap out like the Incandescent Baton or even like Chemtech or Packed Powder for her relic, the Protectors of Demacia, that would also be fine. Or throw in like a Arcane Comet. Or if you want to do something super cheesy, you can just go full mana for Lux. Here, the Starforged Gauntlet's giving you +1, Incandescent's giving you +1, and then if you ever at 5 stars, you can get another +1. So you can start at like 5 mana and play Lux turn 1. There's a lot of different relics you can kind of mix and match. There's not necessarily like one set loadout you need to go with, or that's like a lot better than all of the others. There's just a good selection of relics that all help Lux. You can kind of pick and choose to make your preferred playstyle with her. Alright, that's it for our in-game portion of Lux. We're going to now take a look at what powers to look out for, cards to look out for, support champions, and finish up with her regional rankings. Alright, taking a look at powers now. So up first, here we have allies have Overwhelm. This is nice, not quite as required as it is on many other champions, but you still are getting most of your damage from your units actually attacking. So just making sure their damage is actually carrying through. Quite nice. Vanguard Lookout, game start, summon 2 Vanguard Lookouts. Again, anything that's summoning units at the start of the game or start of the round is nice for you. You want to try to have a full board just so that when you are getting your rallies, you just have all these units attacking. So very good. Also handy blockers. Deep Cuts, when an ally strikes the enemy nexus, curse the enemy with Ichor. That is a curse in hand that's going to be dealing damage to their nexus. You're trying to do a whole bunch of rallies. You normally have a bunch of units hitting the nexus, so you can stack this up very quickly, which is quite nice. Then we have some of the best possible powers in the game for you, and they are rare. So we have Sorcery, round start, refill your spell mana. Absolutely excellent. This lets you drop some really big spells, even just like turn 1. Very, very good for you. Slow but steady. When you play a slow spell, copy the same targets. Most of your spells are slow, so it's just doubling the spell. So that on its own is good, but it counts as you casting the spell twice. So it triggers essentially double the mana cost, which then triggers your effects like your rally, Lux level ups, anything like that, your 6-star. So overall, really good. These two are two of just the best powers in the game. Pretty much grab them any opportunity you can. Remember game, this can be nice. Create a fleeting copy of the last non-fleeting cards you played. Takes a little bit to kind of get used to playing around with this one. But one of the biggest issues with Lux is not having a spell to play every round. So with this, you can try to just either have this generate a spell for you, or have this generate a unit that you can play to generate a spell for you. So a lot of units might have, when I'm summoned, create a spell in hand, or when I'm summoned, draw a spell from your deck. So even if you're not using this on a spell itself, trying to use it on a unit to give you some more spells can be quite nice. Lastly then, shared mana flow, game start, both players get a mana gem. Technically you are helping the enemy, but for you, once you get Chemtech online, which you're normally going to be running with, you are just incredibly powerful, and so getting there as soon as possible is great. Best defense, allies have attack, grow my health to match my power. With Lux, since your units are attacking so many times, having some extra ways to protect them and keep them alive throughout those attacks is very nice, because this can essentially heal up your units. So great one to have. And then we have Hold It, round start, stun the strongest enemy. With Lux, you can be a little bit slow to get going. Not anything crazy, but you are a little bit more of like a mid-range champion. So having some extra defensive abilities, so like Hold It, as you see right here, hold them off for the Frostbite, Enfeebling Strike, or even the Shield that when you play a spell, you heal your Nexus a little bit. Any of those sort of defensive powers can be a good pickup for you. Next, let's take a look at support champions. As always, not a exhaustive list, just something to maybe consider when you're looking at support champions. Also with support champions, you're sometimes just looking at the items on the cards. So if there's some good items such as Invoke, Manifest, or when I'm summoned, draw a spell on some units, or just spells in general, any of those are worth considering. But for some more specifics, one thing to look out for is extra attacks, especially once you get your Lux to 6 stars, because every attack gives you another laser. So this can be rallies, free attacks, scout, any of that. Spells, you are a spells-based champion. You want to be playing a spell every single round. So any cards that are either spells themselves or able to generate spells for you is worth considering. And then lastly, we have control. You don't really have any control in your deck baseline. And so having someone bring in some control, whether that's like Frostbite, stuns, immobilize, or even just straight up removal spells, any of that can be pretty good for you. So for some specific champions, we have Aurelia. A lot of free attacks in there. That's great. 4 spells, Ezreal's fantastic. His support package is him plus 2 spells. So that works out really well. Then for control, Morgana's really good. She comes with a spell. She gives you a stun. She has that immobilize. And so she's another one that can be quite good for you. Taking a look at some cards to look out for. Again, for most of these, I'm not saying look for this specific card, just these types of cards. So Riposte, give an ally 3 power and barrier this round. That on its own is solid. This also is giving you a Poro, and then it has the Invoke. Like we slightly mentioned earlier, going for Invoke, Manifest, Emperor's Deck, any of those can be good because that can then generate another spell for you. You pretty much always want to have a spell on hand to play at the next round start. So going for a spell that has Invoke on it, or again, those Manifests, or just other ways to generate spells is very good. Here, Production Surge, going for this or Thermo Beam is excellent for you because you're spending all of your mana, and for here it's summoning units of those turrets. But having that be the first thing you play is great because you're spending all your mana, then your 3-star is giving you all that mana back. So just incredibly powerful for triggering your 2nd star power, 3rd star power, 6th star power, leveling up your Lux, all of it. This is fantastic for that. Something that I think is new that just happened this patch, you can now find Final Sparks in the shop. Now that can be pretty fun. They are still fleeting, so do be aware of that. You have to spend them or play them this round. But especially when you're at 6 stars, you're able to generate these a lot more often. This can be incredible, so keep an eye out for the shop if you see some Final Sparks in there. Public Execution, for one's a 6-cost spell. That's nice to see. This is letting your ally strike an enemy to get another rally. Since this is a 6-cost, it's also triggering your 2-star to give you a Golden Aegis, which is another rally. So essentially this one card is giving you 2 rallies. Since it's slow, if you have Slow But Steady, it can go off twice, which is really good. This is also generating a unit from the Poro, and this has Draw 1. So all around, great card right here. Again, I'm not saying necessarily look out for this card exactly, but just anytime you're seeing a card, especially a spell, that's just doing a lot of different things for you, something to consider. Entreat, draw a champion. This had Summoning Beacon, summon a follow with my cost from your regions. You love spells that generate units for you. So even though the spell itself, baseline, isn't generating a unit, because it has that Summoning Beacon, that is very good. And then this drawing a champion is nice as well. So that is something really to consider when you have a spell that's good baseline, but then it just gets some items on there that make it even better for you. Meteor Shower, 5 costs, not quite that 6 cost, but again, not unlike Jace, you're not capped at just playing 6-cost spells. It is slow, so if it's Slow But Steady, it's going to go off twice. Has some damage to try to kill enemy units. Going to be summoning a Poro for you, and then it's giving you another card back from the Emperor's deck, so you can hopefully get another spell from that. And then Eager Apprentice, when I'm summoned to refill 2 spell mana. Normally, if you're just playing a unit and not a spell that's generating a unit, you want that unit to either give you mana back or to give you another spell. But generally, you want to be playing spells that give you units. Finishing off with her rankings then, I think before level 20, she's a solid B tier champion. Good, I would say probably close to like higher B tier, but not quite strong enough to get into that A tier. I think after level 20, she's a solid A tier champion. Even with her 6 stars, I think she is very strong. Not quite strong enough to get into the S tier in my opinion, but definitely very solid. As far as some of the pros, she can be very aggressive, but not in the same way as like an aggro champion is, where they're trying to put pressure on turn 1 and just end the game immediately. Now, you can do some crazy stuff with like 6-star Lux, but generally, you're not really an aggressive champion in the first couple rounds, but normally what you're doing is you're able to stack up a lot of your rally spells from your 2-star. Since they're not fleeting, you can hold several in hand, and then once you hit a point where you have like 4 to 5 units, you then just have a single round where you just play them all back to back and you rally and attack like 4 to 5 times in a single round. And so there are certain points where you are incredibly aggressive and you're just steamrolling the enemy, and it can be quite a lot of fun. It's also a very combo-centric playstyle, which is great. Also, you are pretty balanced. You have a very balanced approach to the game. You're having to focus on your units, you're having to focus on your spells. You can't just focus on one or the other. And you also have some solid removal, some good draw, and just overall, she's a pretty balanced kit, which is quite nice. As far as some cons, you are very spell reliant. You want to play a spell every single round, but unlike most champions, you're not generating a spell to play every round. So if you just have bad luck and you can't draw any spells, then you're going to have a bad time because pretty much all of your star powers are relying on you playing those spells to refill your mana and generate a lot of your extra effects. And then also, you are a slight ramp champion. Now, it's not anything crazy like an Ornn or a Bard or something like that, but you are more mid-range, and you can take a couple rounds to get going, especially if you're going with the Chemtech Duplicator. So it's just something to be aware of. And then finishing off with her regional rankings, it is tough because she's in Demacia, and Demacia is an incredibly competitive region. So I'd say she is probably around mid, but I also think most champions in Demacia, especially those with constellations, are all very close in power. But she does have Morgana in her region, who is Demacia and Targon. But Morgana, while slow, pretty much wins and destroys everything. Then you have Vayne, which is pretty much the best or one of the best turn 1 champions in the game. Also, Lux Illuminated at 6 stars, incredibly good, often can end turn 1 as well. And so while I think this version of Lux is quite good, I don't think she is noticeably better than any of the other champions in her region. Now, I'm not saying she's a lot worse than any of the other champions as well. I just think Demacia's region is very competitive, and pretty much all the champions are very close to each other in power, which is why I was giving her that mid ranking, because she's kind of the same as pretty much everyone else. But I would say if you tried to put her in some other regions, she would potentially be top over there. It's just that Demacia is so competitive. All right, I hope this was able to help you out. If it did, a like and subscribe is greatly appreciated, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.